Welcome. Come inside. Have a seat. The witching hour is upon us. It's time to remove the old cobwebs from the book. Let the sounds and the stories take you deep into the forest where the nightmares await you. You came back to hear the rest of the story, huh? You want to know if Lisa makes it through the night? Well, let's open the book and find out. The Cabin, Part 2. Lisa screamed when she heard the creature's voice. She turned and ran into the bedroom, slamming the door behind her. She tried to lock the door, but there was no lock on it. She ran over to the closet and got inside, but there was no lock on that door either. Lisa grabbed a large blanket and threw it over herself, trying to hide. She sat there, shaking from fear, when she heard the door open slowly. She could hear the creature breathing. It took heavy breaths. The creature pushed the door completely open and walked inside. She couldn't see it, but she could tell it was heavy by its footsteps. The creature walked over to the bed and bent over, sniffing where she had been laying. It made a deep growl, then turned its head and looked around the room. The creature turned and started walking back over toward the door, as if it was going to leave the room, when it stopped and turned and looked at the closet door. It took a deep breath as if it could smell Lisa, then started toward the closet door. It grabbed the door handle and jerked the door open, almost ripping it off the hinges. Slowly the beast stuck its head inside the closet. It took another deep breath and turned its head back and forth. The creature looked down and saw the blanket. Then it reached out for it with its long fingers and crooked fingernails. It grabbed the blanket and jerked it upwards. Lisa was gone. The loose boards on the floor gave her a way out. She pulled them up and crawled under the house and ran towards her car. The creature stood there staring at the floor, then turned its head very quickly when it heard the car door slam. The creature ran from the room, letting out a howl as it did. Lisa's hands shook as she tried putting the keys into the switch. She turned the switch and the car started, but it was too late. The large hands of the beast busted out the window and grabbed Lisa by the shirt. She screamed as the creature drug her out through the window. Suddenly, 3 shots were fired. Lisa had her gun in her right hand and shot the beast in the chest. Lisa fell to the ground as the creature let her go and stepped back after being shot 3 times. Lisa jumped up, clutching her gun and flashlight, and ran into the forest. "Somebody, please help me," she screamed. But she knew in her mind that she was alone up on that mountain. Lisa stopped and squatted down behind a large tree, trying to catch her breath. The thunder rolled over the mountain, and the rain started pouring down upon her. She gripped her gun tightly and peeked out from behind the tree. The thunder rolled once more, and the lightning lit up the sky. There stood the creature. Straight ahead of her, the creature turned and ran into the forest. "I don't think it saw me," she thought to herself. Lisa stood up slowly, trying not to make a sound. Suddenly, she heard branches snapping behind her. She turned and looked, but there was nothing there. She stood there staring into the darkness, trying to see if anything was moving. When her attention was drawn away, because of the sound of a truck coming up the drive. Lisa ran from the tree yelling, "Help me!" The truck pulled into the driveway and Jason jumped out with a shotgun in his hand. Jason ran towards the cabin and was about to go up on the steps when he heard Lisa yell. He ran around the side of the cabin, then stopped when he heard her yell again. Jason aimed his flashlight straight ahead, and there stood Lisa about 60 feet from him. She held her hand up over her eyes so she could see. "Help me," she screamed. "There is something out here." Jason started walking towards her when he yelled, "You should have never come up here alone." Lisa started toward him when she said, "You are right. I should have..." Her words were never finished as the creature sprung from the forest, grabbing her by the neck, picking her up off her feet, and running off into the darkness with her. Jason screamed, "No!" and ran after her. As Jason got to where she was standing, he stood there shining his flashlight all around, but she was nowhere to be seen. Jason shined the flashlight down at the ground when he saw the cabin keys laying on the ground next to a massive paw print. Jason squatted down and picked up the keys. As he stood up, he heard Lisa's scream echoing through the forest. But they were suddenly drowned out by a loud howl. And then there was silence. The next morning, Jason sat on the porch of the old cabin talking to the sheriff. The sheriff said, "Now let me get this straight. You were trying to tell me what you saw grab her and run off into the darkness was at least 7 foot. And you said it was completely covered in grayish white fur." Jason shook his head yes. The sheriff turned to walk off the porch when he stopped and turned back to look at Jason. "Now once more, what did you say it looked like?" Jason raised his head slowly and looked at him. "A werewolf." Well, friends, it looks like Lisa never stood a chance up against a creature of the night. Come back next week, but make sure to lock your doors and turn the lights down real low. Because if you thought this story was scary, the next one will surely give you nightmares. It's a story I call The Scarecrow in the Cornfield.